you should pat yourself on the back. You've made it to our final discussion on altered chords. If you've not heard parts 1 through 3, we recommend checking them out first. Having said that, let the chromaticism continue. You're listening to Music Student 101. Here are your hosts, Jeremy Burns and Matthew Scott Phillips.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, Jeremy.
How did you like that intro music?
Well, I know that piece. Yeah, that's pretty popular.
And quite well executed, no?
And quite well executed indeed.
Well, that wasn't me.
That wasn't you?
No, that was
It certainly wasn't me.
No, that was our sweet friend Angela Senich.
Indeed, who is a very good pianist.
That's our keyboard player for Jenny's mixtape, my 90s cover band.
Yes, it is.
A great friend who I'm so glad to have made in the past couple of years.
Oh, yeah.
Angela and her partner Tony Parlapiano run an online service called Popmatics,
Which you should check out.
Yeah. And Angela, has been she has a classical music background.
Correct.
And Tony he studied jazz.
Okay, I didn't know that.
But the main focus of Popmatics is pop music from a pop music perspective,
Yeah.
as the name implies. So it's worth checking out. Popmatics is a flexible online piano program for adults who want to improvise, play by ear, gain musical fluency, and apply practical theory, all in the context of popular music, as they say.
Yeah. If you've ever wanted to play piano in a fun way, in a self-enjoyment kind of way, this is where you need to go.
Mm-hmm. She tells me they offer 15 plus live interactive classes every week, along with a large library of recorded classes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot of info.
And all of this at a more affordable rate with an innovative curriculum.
Wow.
A lot of resources and also a really good community of music lovers that will encourage and support you on your journey. So it's kind of a cool little online place to learn piano with many, many resources.
Excellent. I should look at that. I should learn piano at some point.
And a little more affordable than individual private lessons. I think
I can only imagine. Yeah.
And she also says that while this service is piano-driven, they also support students of other instruments looking to deepen their ear training.
Ooh, nice.
Fluency and theory knowledge. So they touch on theory, they touch on ear training.
Yes, indeed.
And this is popmatics.com. That is popmatics.com.
.com.
So thank Angela for writing or playing our cool bumper music.
Thank you, Angela. Beautiful rendition.
And help us thank her by going to check out popmatics.com.
Indeed.
Yeah, I love a little bit of you scratch my back, I scratch yours. That's the kind of promotion I believe in, honestly.
Well, we have lots of awesome musical friends.
We do.
And Angela is one of them. It's really, I really consider it a blessing to have so many friends that have so much talent, and
there's times where I feel like I could broaden my horizons and just try and go hang out when my friends go watch football games and stuff like that. But I really just enjoy sitting around playing and talking about music with my musician buddies.
Really? And, we did that recently even. We kind of hung out with some of our musician friends, and Angela was one of them.
Mm-hmm, indeed.
And, we got to hear her sing a lot in her beautiful voice and the amazing guitar stylings of Colin Soniat. And,
oh, yeah.
It was like, how many people get to have friends that just sit around and have... and create music that way. It was pretty awesome.
It's a blessing indeed.
Yes.
Oh, speaking of our community, we have a new review.
Yay, new review.
So we got 5 stars from J.P. Jones 2 of Canada.
Of Canada, okay.
John Paul Jones 2?
Possibly. It's probably not, it's probably where the 2 is because it's, it's not the Led Zeppelin guy. But
or John Paul Jones made one review and then felt embarrassed about making 2 of them. And decided to name him part,
Yeah, that's possible.
That's possible. What does J.P. Jones 2 of Canada have to say?
J.P. Jones 2 of Canada says, the pace it goes covers the absolute bare bones basics in the early episodes all the way into the thicket. We're later covering some really in-depth down the chipmunk hole kind of topics.
Is that Canadian for rabbit hole?
I think it might be.
Okay.
Of topics, as our hosts make reference to, Many being college and university level subjects discussed. Indeed. Indeed. You know, someone before has mentioned the fact that you're really kind of getting a college music theory education if you just listen to all of these podcasts.
Many people, myself included, have said that.
Yeah. So, he continues, intervals, melody, harmonies, inversions, counterpoint and chord structures, non-chord and passing tones, major and minor keys, triads and modes within scales, and how to actually be using them. And that's just some things. Being able to do ear training practice on the road is a nice refresh every so often from the same old same on the radio. They also have topics covering histories of different instruments and the evolution of those and music itself. It's a great podcast if you're looking to broaden your understanding of music and take it much deeper. It will help, and the fact that you have them literally teaching you the components of a college-level education in an episode-based format makes it easy to study what you want. Well, thank you so much, J.P. Jones. Yeah, that is a good advantage. You can sort of study what you want. You know, a lot of people, I think, really dig the theory stuff. And I get that. I'm a theory nerd myself.
And you're in luck today if you are.
And you're in luck today if you are, for sure.
Lots of luck.
And you know, other people like other stuff, like the history of the instrument things J.P. Jones mentioned, and other stuff that we do. And you know, even within the theory, you know, how much theory do you want? What kind of theory do you want? You know, there's a wide range at this point.
Yeah,
you know.
And more to come,
and even more to come.
So that's we love it when people give us reviews. It broadens our awareness.
Yeah,
online.
and broadens our reach to other people who might also like the podcast. It doesn't just make us feel good, which it definitely does that.
Certainly, especially the lengthy in depth ones. You know?
Especially the lengthy in depth. Yeah, absolutely. But it also pushes us up the ye old podcast ladder to reach more and more people.
So send in your reviews, good and bad.
Indeed.
We could use it. Another cool thing you can do to support us is to join Patreon.
Indeed.
We have a good number of people who support us monthly on patreon.com/musicstudent101. One of these is Brandon Callahan out of Salt Lake City, Utah.
Excellent.
Brandon is a mail carrier who enjoys listening to books, music, and podcasts while on his route. He found us on Spotify, and he made it through the whole show fairly quickly, and now plans to listen again in front of his keyboard to get the theory under his fingertips. Huh?
Now that's some dedication.
Not a bad idea, but that is definitely some dedication. He enjoys making dark electronic music.
Okay.
Such as industrial, dark wave, and noise.
Okay.
He's also a DJ on Twitch.
Nice.
Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
Matt, what does Brandon have to say?
Brandon says, I don't have any formal training. I started learning music around the age of 18 and have been doing it for 25 years now. It took me a long time to get anywhere with it. I now have a studio in my basement with a lot of high-end audio gear and around 100 hardware synthesizers and drum machines.
100. Over 100 hardware synthesizers. Hardware, mind you.
Yeah.
This is not apps.
Yeah, this has to fill up the whole room.
Love it. That's dedication, too.
I had studied the basics of theory with beginner's guides, but your podcast really helped me understand deeper theory concepts with ease. I really enjoyed the episode where you talked about the underlying theory of Chopin's Prelude in E minor. Because that's one that I like to play, and I never understood why it worked the way it does to create such a powerful piece. Most of the music I write is in minor scales, blues minor, Phrygian, Hungarian minor, etc. Do you know what Hungarian minor is, Jeremy?
I think we did an episode on scales on that. Do you remember it? I can't pull it off the top of my head.
I don't remember the episode number, but the Hungarian minor scale has both a sharp 4 and a flat 6.
You want to play it for us?
Oh, can I play that?
Not to digress, but this is good music stuff. Ooh, interesting.
Indeed.
Carry on.
So anyway, Brandon continues. I program all the sounds on the synthesizers myself. I'm excited to take what I've learned from the both of you and apply it to new compositions. I really enjoy your podcasts. I really like the opening portions where you go over emails and reviews. Thank you. We worry about that. We worry that people sort of zone out while we're doing this. I could listen to that all day.
All day.
All day.
Mind you, all day.
We're going to have to do an episode that's nothing but reviews and listener mail. Nah, there would be a revolt, I think. But
we'll call it To Brandon Callahan, wherever you are.
The Brandon Callahan tribute episode.
Yeah.
Where there's just, reviews and emails. Yeah, there you go. Anyway, your podcast is one of the best I've ever listened to. I can't recommend it enough. Thank you, Brandon. And thank you, Brandon, for your support on Patreon. And there are different tiers to the Patreon thing, right?
Yeah, we got the, for $1 a month, you can be one of our, I guess we call them Unison members.
Yes.
Where you can get into the site and see all the bonus videos.
Get bonus stuff. Hear Jeremy's band play some of our bumper music.
That's a cool, fun thing.
Yep.
Back when I had more dark hair on my head and my beard. But enough about me. The Perfect Third members for $3 to $4, they can get like a coffee mug. All those things plus the cool little coffee mug.
Plus the cool little coffee mug with Music Student 101 on it.
And then Perfect Fifth members, anyone beyond $5 and beyond can get their own bonus episode, plus the coffee mug, plus entrance.
So access plus the coffee mug, plus your own bonus episode where we spend no less than 15 minutes answering your music theory questions specifically.
Mm-hmm. So you could be like Brandon and join us on patreon.com/musicstudent101.
Indeed.
You know, I was trying to remember the episode where we discussed Chopin's Prelude in E minor.
We definitely did.
But Brandon, if you're listening, you probably know you're in for a treat.
You probably, yes, indeed.
I mean, my biggest fear is to do the same thing twice on these episodes now that we're getting 125.
Yeah, it's becoming more and more of a danger.
I don't want to do something I've already said a million times. I know I've used a lot of my same dad jokes over and over again, but...
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's becoming more and more of a danger, but I think we've got some new stuff to say about this. At least I hope so.
And we'll get into it very soon, but first we have a listener mail.
Indeed, we have a listener mail. This is from Nikita Menkov from Estonia.
Yeah. Nikita was dealing with some pretty cold temperatures when first they wrote to us.
Oh, yeah.
If you can imagine. That's pretty far north.
Yeah.
But he didn't mind it as he finds the winter to be a creatively productive time of the year.
Well, good.
Says Nikita. And Nikita has written to express his gratitude, which we greatly appreciate.
Indeed.
Matt?
So Nikita says, I'm 27 years old. I've been doing music for around 12 years. My main instrument is guitar, but so far I'm currently focused on improving my piano skills for a simple reason. I've started to write a lot for piano, and I want to be able to play it. I also sing and play drums, love the rhythm, can't beat it. Or actually can.
Hey.
I came to your podcast last winter when I decided to take a composer path and digging into music theory became essential. My routine was to take my dog for a walk by the seaside and put your podcast into my headphones. The weather was cold and brutal, by the way. Your episodes on modes and counterpoint were essentially helpful for me and made me dive more into Dorian mode and actually write something in it. I'm trying to pick up different instruments. I think it gives you more clear perspective on certain elements of music. I agree. Bass is a tricky one.
Is it?
And yes, I'm of course telling my friends about your podcast. It's actually really handy. When we discuss some topics, there is usually a series from Music Student 101 I can recommend. My girlfriend also listens to your podcast. She is a talented harpist, and she made her first harp yesterday.
Made her first harp yesterday.
That's
pretty amazing.
Yeah. That's what do you call a person who makes a harp? Are they still a luthier?
Probably. Maybe.
Probably, yeah.
We can ask Nikita and his girlfriend.
Absolutely, yeah. Yes, we can.
That's amazing.
Yes.
There's something cool about harp players, isn't there? There's an elegance to them. So thank you, Nikita, for writing in, and we can't wait to hear. Actually, Nikita did send us. I have heard his music, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with you guys. So
excellent.
We got listeners composition episode 130 coming up in a few months. So
wonderful. Can't
keep
wait.
Your ears out for that.
Can't wait.
Now, I guess it's time to go ahead and get into this episode, isn't it?
Let's go ahead and dive in. So this is another sort of high-level theory episode. Mm-hmm. So what are some of the things we're talking about here?
This is Altered Chords Part 4.
Part 4.
But as you listen to this episode, you might see where I thought about just calling it extended harmonies.
Extended harmonies, chromatic harmonies.
Because these seem less like chords and more like happenings.
More like special cases.
Special cases. Incidences.
Happenings.
Happenings.
They are contrapuntal phenomena is what they are.
Even better.
Better. To call them chords is almost not to miss the point exactly, but be to looking at it from a bad angle almost, you know?
Right. Now, this is part 4 of a 4-part series. Definitely listen to 1, 2, and 3 first.
Definitely do that.
We covered a few things just to recap what we've done up to this point.
Yeah.
Extended tertian chords. So
Indeed.
9th chords, 11th chords, 13th chords.
Mm-hmm.
The dominant with a substituted 6th.
Indeed. I recall that, yeah.
Yeah. The dominant with the raised 5th.
Mm-hmm.
The dominant with a flatted 5th.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of stuff based on alterations of the dominant chord for sure.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then so more recently we talked about we got away from the chords and more into the counterpoint, you know what I mean? So like common tone diminished 7th chords.
Indeed, yep.
Linear chromaticism.
I recall that.
Appoggiatura chords.
Mm-hmm.
Simultaneities, which
are kind of a weird little thing, right?
Explain that real quick.
So a simultaneity is basically a chord that doesn't really function, but instead of being the result of a flowing tonal function is the result of a contrapuntal confluence that makes sense contrapuntally, although it doesn't necessarily make any kind of sense from a chord function standpoint.
From a vertical standpoint.
Right. So it's usually a chord type that we know, like it'll be a dominant 7 or a fully diminished 7.
Mm-hmm.
And, this fully diminished 7 will be sitting here, and it's not a 7/7 or a 2 fully diminished 7, or it's not a 7/7 or 5. Or it's just, the 4 voices moving along as they do created this chord, and that's just what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it just moves on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then linear chromaticism, real quick, just a recap of that, because I think we're going to actually bring that back up in this episode.
So we're going to bring that back up. So linear chromaticism basically is a chromaticism in which a singular voice moves chromatically,
mm-hmm.
and the other voices are harmonized around that. And when that happens, very often, if you try to analyze the chords, your chord analysis won't make very much sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is the chromatic movement of one or more of these voices that is sort of holding the piece of music together, not the flow from one chord to the next.
Right. So to me, this sounds similar to simultaneities. You know what I mean?
Simultaneities could be thought of as a product of linear chromaticism, for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
All right, just trying to see where everything fits in here.
Yeah.
So we'll be talking a little bit about that too. And then moving backward a little bit, the appoggiatura chord is also a kind of a thing that happens over time rather than in one space, right?
Yeah.
Where the voice, what does it call it? Steps up?
The appoggiatura leaps up and then steps down.
Leaps up and then steps down.
Yeah.
Can you play us with that real quick?
I don't know. Let's see.
Yeah, that high note you heard.
Now I'm just making stuff up.
I
really ought to record.
You could have kept going. I did record pretty much everything you do before each episode. I have a folder for you. I can't believe I haven't shared it with you.
Awesome. I can't wait. Yeah, I really ought to save some of this stuff that I just make up randomly. So, but Jeremy, great friend that he is, has done so for me. Awesome.
I'm an archivist. So moving from there, we're going to go ahead and get into the new topic of the day, and we're going to start with coloristic chord successions.
Coloristic chord successions.
Now, again, I use 2 books to put these together: Chopin,
Sure.
Tonal Harmony,
Sure,
and then Harmony in Context by Roy Francoli.
Mm-hmm.
This is more of a Chopin thing, and
Right.
we talked about how Francoli actually analyzes it from more of a counterpoint perspective.
Typically, yeah.
Where Chopin is more of a chord by chord.
More of a chord person, yeah.
So let's
or chord people. There's actually 2 people, but
chord people, yes. Koska, Dorothy.
Stephen Koska and Dorothy Payne,
Yes.
yeah.
Chord folk.
Chord folk.
Now, the coloristic chord successions, these make use of chords that are foreign to the key in non-traditional ways.
Mm-hmm.
These chords are more exotic than simply a secondary dominant or Neapolitan chord, for example.
So one way to do this is through unexpected root movements to chords that are foreign to the key you're in.
Okay, let's talk about that. I'm going to be asking you to explain a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, I'm assuming what they mean is like, okay, if we're in D minor, and then we go to something like just G sharp, just for the heck of it,
Okay.
Like something like that.
G sharp, that's the sharp 4 of the key of D minor.
Yeah.
And that chord you played was a G sharp what?
That was G sharp major.
Which would not be either
anywhere in D minor.
Anywhere in D minor,
yeah.
So again, it sounds like a simultaneity to me, right?
Yeah, you got to be careful using that simultaneity as a catch-all to anything you don't understand.
I'm trying to figure out why I can't do that in this episode, I think, mainly. Don't
feel bad. A lot of people kind of struggle with, why can't I just call it a simultaneity? And simultaneity is basically a last resort if there's no other reasonable explanation that serves.
Okay, so that's the last resort.
Yeah.
Now, regarding coloristic chord successions, a lot of times these progressions involve chromatic mediant relationships, huh?
Indeed, and we've talked about chromatic mediants. Movement to movement of the root of the chord, either up a third or down a third. And usually to the third that's not in the key.
Okay, so that's what makes it chromatic.
That's what makes it chromatic, right? So if I'm in D minor again, and I move if I move to F sharp, for minor, for example.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, kind of dramatic, isn't it? Yeah, then that would be a chromatic mediant motion.
Because in D minor, you would normally be going to the third. The third chord would be an F major.
It'd be F major, yeah.
And instead, we're actually not only doing the third, but we're doing an F sharp. So that makes it chromatic.
And we're making it minor, or we're making it. Yeah, okay. Did we make it minor?
Yeah, I think you did actually. Just to make it even weirder.
Just to make it even weirder.
Yeah.
Where it might have normally been major.
Because F sharp.
Yeah.
C sharp, right.
Right,
well,
yeah.
if you were doing a, what do you call it? A
harmonic minor.
Tone 7.
Yeah.
Okay. We're getting into another episode here.
We're getting off into a whole other rabbit hole here.
But this is coloristic chord successions. So anyways, more distantly related keys would be doubly chromatic mediant relationships.
Have this relationship. When these two chords is one is major and the other is minor, or vice versa, and the roots are a third apart. Yeah. So the two chords we just played, D minor and F sharp minor, both minor. If I actually went D minor and then went B major, it's a double chromatic mediant motion.
Because
I have switched. I have not only gone outside of the key, but I have also switched the quality.
Yeah, to the third of the chord, which to a note member that is also not in the key.
Exactly. Okay, So you've got two chromatics there,
making it doubly chromatic.
And we have discussed this on the podcast on mediant relationships. We did do that at some point.
Well, yeah, that was a good one. It was a while back.
Yeah. Neo-Riemannian analysis.
Yeah. I found I actually kind of like that. How do we analyze these things? If we're actually like on a quiz or something, trying to put this under the staff.
It would depend on a lot of things. I mean, you could part of the interesting things about these kind of chromatic chords and chromatic alterations is they sort of don't analyze well, right? I mean, they won't make a whole lot of sense. You could call it 3 in some instances, or flat 6 in some instances, or whatever. And that's basically sort of just describing the chord and its relationship to the original tonic. But in terms of function, what's interesting about these things is they often don't make a whole lot of functional sense. Your chord progression isn't going to look nice and happy and smooth to you because it's not a good chord progression, because it's held together by chromatic motion, by linear chromatics and chromatic coloration, more than it is held together by what we think of as traditional chord function. This is how tonality started to fall apart and the 20th century happened.
Mm-hmm.
You know that Archer meme about, do you want ants? This is how we get ants. Yeah, I mean, it's like, do you want the 20th century? Because this is how we get the 20th century. These chromaticisms start to creep in, and the rules that have held tonal music together start to become very ephemeral.
By the time we're at the discussions we're at right now, we've pretty much abandoned the Roman numeral system for the most part.
Not entirely, but boy, is it on shaky ground.
It's on shaky ground.
It doesn't get abandoned entirely until, at least Debussy comes along,
Okay.
And then by the time, and then when Schoenberg comes along, we abandon not only that, but the idea of chords altogether, of traditional tertian chords anyway, altogether.
Well, let's look at the chord you just came up with. In the key of D minor, you played an F sharp minor? Or major?
Yeah.
So one recommended way of analyzing this would be to simply name the root of the chord and the sonority below.
Yeah.
So how would you do that on paper? You would say F sharp, because that's the root of the chord, right?
Yeah.
And then just
and then the sonority meaning the quality, I suppose.
Yeah. So
just call it F sharp minor.
Yeah.
You're just saying we went to F sharp minor there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, if we're in D minor, I'm gonna go to F sharp minor, which by the way is singly chromatic, not doubly chromatic, because A is in the key of D minor. Right?
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's the third of F sharp minor.
Right. Yeah. So we are talking singly chromatic.
Just a chromatic mediant.
Yeah, just a chromatic mediant.
If it was F sharp major, it would have been doubly chromatic. Yeah.
Freaky, man.
That would have been doubly chromatic. Okay.
Yeah, that would have been parallel fifths too.
Clarifying what we said earlier. Sometimes we have to
So yeah, sometimes we're doing this as we go.
Yeah. In autopilot mode.
Anyway, F sharp minor. I would have to call that sharp 3. Mm-hmm. And lowercase Roman numeral sharp 3.
Okay.
Because that is technically the chord in relation to. That doesn't mean anything. Like I said, your chord progression isn't going to make a whole lot of functional sense. It's going to look like a substitute for 1, I suppose, which I suppose it could technically be considered that.
It's also still a 3 chord.
It's also still a 3 chord.
And we haven't gone up a letter.
No.
We're
no.
Yeah.
It's
still F.
I would still call that 3. Yeah.
So yeah, and it has. We don't know about a mediant function, but most mediant functions are pretty much a prolongation of 1 anyways, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, mediant functions tend to do that.
Now, I think that satisfies my curiosity about the coloristic chord successions.
Good.
Let's get into chromatic sequences.
Chromatic sequences.
How are those fingers doing, Matt? You going to be able to get us through this?
Oh, probably not. But
all right.
We'll see. Let's be in G major.
Okay.
For a little while.
And we're going to discuss 4 different types here.
Yeah.
It feels like I'm in G.
So the descending circle of fifth sequences, we have kind of come across this before. Mm-hmm. Where, we all know a descending circle of fifths, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1, right? Mm-hmm. What happens though is if I go, if I'm in G, and then I go, forgive the voice leading, but if I go 2, 5. Yeah, G,
1, 2, 5, 1.
Yeah, we know that.
Mm-hmm.
If I even extend it out even further, if I go, so I'm in G, and I go 6, 2, 5, 1. So 1, 6, 2, 5, 1. Right. So that 6 chord I played, minor. Right, and then the 2 chord I played, minor.
Very diatonic so far.
And this is a descending circle fifth sequence. What we're going to do is just chromaticize this up a little bit, and we're going to make a 6, but instead of making 6 chord, we're going to make 5 of 2, or so.
E major instead of E minor.
Right. Yeah. So 1, 5 of 2, 5 of 5, 5. 1.
Let's hear that one more time without me cackling during. 1, 5 of 2, 5 of 5, 5, 1. Okay. We have chromaticized a circle of fifths.
We have chromaticized the descending circle of fifth sequence.
The descending being because you go from 1 down to 6 and then down to...
Yeah, you're going backwards around the circle of fifths.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to read you a quote, and you tell me you can translate this. Are you ready?
Okay, yes.
If the chords in a descending circle of fifths are all secondary dominants, which I think is what you just did, right?
Yes.
Then the sequence is chromatic, and the two voices feature descending lines. Did you feature descending lines?
Probably not.
In two of the voices?
Probably not.
Well, I don't think I need a translation for that.
So if you do that and also respect the parallel fifths rules and all that kind of stuff, you'll end up with chromatically descending lines.
Following the rules of counterpoint.
Yeah, which descending chromatic lines are kind of weird, contrapuntally speaking. But yeah, it's another one of those things where this passage is held together as much by those chromatically descending lines as they are by the function of, because we have a 5 of 2 and never get a 2. Because we don't get a 2, we get a 5 of 5, right? Yeah, it's that kind of thing.
But you still have that same root note.
Still have the same root of the chord, yeah.
Cool. In this case. The thirds have been altered to make them...
to protect the innocent, yeah. The thirds have been altered to make them all dominant chords.
Okay, so that's the circle of fifth sequence. That normally where you would do 1, 6, 2, 5, that would be 1 minor 6, minor 2, major 5.
Major 5, yeah. Instead, you're doing 5 of 2, 5 of 5, 5.
Cool.
Yeah.
Raising the
and you can go all the way back too. You can go 5 of 6 to 5 of 5 of 2, 5 of 5, 5. Mm-hmm. And 5 is technically 5 of 1, right?
Yeah, technically, yes, it is.
So yeah.
So that is the descending...
You're just going all the way backwards down the circle of fifths.
Descending circle of fifths sequence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Had it been ascending, I assume we would have been just doing the opposite thing in a different direction, right?
Yeah.
So that, ladies and gentlemen, was the descending circle of fifths sequence.
Yes.
Another common type of chromatic sequence would be the ascending 5-6 or 6-5 sequence.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
What's this?
So what we're talking about are chord inversions.
Okay, we're not talking about scale degrees moving here. We're talking about inversions.
We're talking about chord inversions.
Okay.
And what we're talking about is a rising bass line.
Uh-huh.
So if I'm in the key of D major, right? We're talking about a rising bass line that rises chromatically.
Oh, hey, can you bump that bass down an octave?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you.
So we're talking about a bass that rises chromatically. Right?
Uh-huh.
And to harmonize this chromatic ascending bass line, we are alternating between what we call 5-3 chords, root position triads.
Uh-huh.
Right? D minor.
Root position D minor.
Yep. And the 6-5 chords, so the first inversion 7 chords, that is a third below whatever we just played. So in this case, I'm going to go from D minor, from D major. Yeah. So I'm going to go from D major to B minor 7, or B major 7, sorry. Yeah. And then I am going to go from that to E minor, and from this E minor. So this is a sequential pattern, right?
Both of those root position 7th chords are followed by first inversion triads.
Exactly. And from there, from this E minor, I'm going to go to
which was what?
Which was C sharp 7 in first inversion.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, the hero of this whole situation is the bass line walking down.
Up.
I'm sorry, up.
Yeah.
Dun,
so the hero of this is the bass line walking up. And to affect this, we are alternating between 5-3 chords and 6-5 chords in figured basses.
5-3 being root positions.
6-5 being first inversion 7
inversion,
chords.
7 chords.
Yeah.
Okay.
So to do that one again, and I'll clear it up a little bit. D major. I hope I will. D major. B7 in first inversion. E minor.
In first inversion.
And then and then and then C sharp 7 in first inversion.
Oh, with the G sharp in it? Would that be second inversion?
Yeah. Well, but the E sharp is in the bass.
Okay,
so it's first inversion.
My bad.
Yeah. And then
getting ahead of myself.
and then C sharp diminished. Et cetera, et cetera. And I can keep this going and keep this bass line walking up kind of as long as I want.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's the ascending 5/6 or 6/5 sequence.
We just did the ascending 5 to 6.
Okay, 5 to 6. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the 6/5 would be
the opposite, starting on the first inversion chord.
Okay, cool.
Rather than yeah.
And then I guess the descending 5/6 sequence would be
presumably doing the same thing except the bass is going down.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to show us that real quick? I'm gonna flex your
flex my
counterpoint and chord creating muscles. I'm gonna flex your muscles.
So can I show you this? Sure. Let's be in B minor.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
And then I'm going to go from B minor, and I'm going to go to F sharp major. Right? With the A sharp, in the bass. So I descended from B, and then down to A sharp. And this first inversion F sharp major chord. Yeah. And then I'm going to go down to A. Root position A major triad.
Which would be 2 of B.
Yeah. And then down to G sharp.
No, that would be 7. Good Lord, that'd be a 7.
That'd be 7, yeah. And then down to G sharp. And then over that G sharp, I'm going to spell G sharp, B, and D. Yeah. You might be recognizing this at this point.
California.
Yeah. And then
lovely place.
We're having fun with this now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just keeps going. So, same basic idea, alternating triads with first inversion chords to affect in this case, descending chromatic bass line, where the other one was an ascending chromatic bass line.
So if you need an example of the descending 6/5 sequence, look no further than Hotel California.
Gotta love the Eagles.
A lot of pop songs feature that descending bass line, actually.
Oh, sure, yeah, and a lot of classical music too. It's sort of the classic lamenting bass line.
I'm going to really put my neck out there and say that in pop music, the descending bass line is more common than the ascending bass line. Chromatically.
Probably. Yeah, the chromatic descending bass line. Pop, yeah, I would stick my neck out and say that's quite a real possibility.
We'll leave that at possibly.
Yeah.
But, right, listeners, write in and tell me what you think. Okay, so finally we have the 7/5 to 6/3 sequence. That's 7/5-6/3 sequence.
Yeah. So what this has to do is with the suspension of resolutions that is informed chromatically, right? So 7 resolving to 6, and what we're basically doing is harmonizing that by creating 7 chords. So where the 7th of our 7 chord. Is resolving and sort of disappearing into a triad.
Oh,
right. So, and the way we're going to do it is going to create a chromatic linear descension.
How interesting.
Yeah. So we're going to do this. We're going to start with a B flat chord. So I'm going to say B flat, D, F, A flat. And so both F and A flat are kind of going to resolve into G. And make this G minor triad in first inversion. So B flat D F A.
7 chord
to first inversion triad. Yeah, right. And then I'm going to come down. Yeah. And I'm going to come down to an A minor, A diminished chord rather.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
7.
Yeah, and I'm going to resolve this E flat and G to F.
Another triad.
Another triad, first inversion triad. Yeah, and then I'm going to come down to A flat with a G flat, right? And resolve this to,
diminished.
Yeah, E diminished. Right? And I can keep going like that to get this, to get this A flat to G flat to F kind of thing going.
Interesting. So again, we have a chromatic line.
Yeah.
In this case, descending.
Yes.
And then, but what sets this aside is the texture is expanding and contracting through each chord. We're starting off with a 4 voice, and then to a 3 voice,
then
4, then 3,
and not so just
on.
4 versus 3, but 7 in root position versus triad in first inversion.
Okay, important to notate.
Yeah,
very cool.
Yes, indeed. I hate sequences.
You say what?
Strike that.
Yeah,
I hate sequences.
Hey, no, you can say that.
I've never had a good brain for them.
You can say that. I'll say that too. Sometimes we're gonna try and teach things we just don't enjoy.
Yeah, indeed.
Or they're just confound. This confounds me a little bit.
It can be a little confounding, especially if you're not really up on inversions and suspensions and all of that. Because we're taking our traditional counterpoint and we're kind of messing with it chromatically, and not to create things that we don't know what they are necessarily, but to create these linear chromatic lines.
Yeah,
effectively. Yeah.
Okay. This next topic we're going to talk about here is kind of the reason that we have a part 4.
Indeed, linear sequential processes.
There's a lot going on to this whole thing.
Yes, there is.
In the late 19th century, composers were using this technique a pretty good bit.
Yes.
And as we heard the bumper music, we're going to be listening to Chopin's Prelude in E minor, Opus 28, as a good example of this.
Yes.
And then we're going to break it down a little bit. We're going to talk about some areas in this passage that demonstrate it as to be non-sequential linear processes.
Indeed we are.
All right. So, and there's going to be a lot of me asking for clarification, Matt.
Okay.
For these, this is Francoli stuff here.
Okay. All right.
All right. So let's go ahead and listen to this. This is Angela Sinich performing Chopin's Prelude in E minor, Opus 28, and the first 13 measures is our focus. Beautiful piece.
Indeed.
Beautifully played. Thank you again, Angela.
Thank you, Angela. That was great.
But there are several things here that we can talk about within this piece.
There are.
That show it to be a non-sequential linear process.
So for one thing, well, I'll just ask you, Jeremy. Did you try to analyze these chords at all?
Yes, you can see on the paper I sent over there to you where I tried and couldn't make a lot of sense out of a lot of things.
And I was going to ask, how much sense did you make out of this?
Very little.
It was kind of challenging to make sense out of these chords, wasn't it?
It's a funny thing because it does sound like music to me.
And it is music.
It is beautiful music.
Yes.
But it is non-diatonic. Very much non-diatonic.
Very much diatonic. And I see what do we have? People are pretty familiar with this. Or at least they are now, because we just heard Angela play it. And having listened to Angela play it, I'm not going to attempt to go anywhere near that. But we do have that.
Spare him in the reviews, y'all.
Yeah, which is 1/6.
Yes, so E minor in first inversion.
Indeed. And then we have, where do we go? We have F sharp, A, and then E and B. What do you make of this?
F sharp, A, E, and B. I thought to myself that was like F sharp, A, like a B chord with a four.
Like a B sus4 maybe?
Sus4, yeah.
Yeah. F.
Which would be a 5 sus4.
And then when you go to E flat, and the B is still sustaining.
Yes. Yeah.
What then?
What did I say?
You just said nothing.
I said nothing. I'll plead the fifth on that one.
Yeah. I'm a little bit torturing you on purpose.
Give me the chord. What? I'll try and spell something. Give it to me again.
F sharp. A. E flat. So far, F sharp fully diminished, and then B.
I mean that the outlier is the B, isn't it?
Yeah.
If that's the case.
And the B does resolve up to C, so you could maybe think of this as what we used to call a retardation, and it resolves up.
Yeah.
You know?
Let's go with that.
Next chord, you've got Neapolitan 7 flat 5 question mark.
That's what I called it, but I think that some people considered it something else.
So we're back down to B, and now we've got F natural, A, E flat. So F, A, E flat, B.
I mean, by the time you have a Neapolitan 7 flat 5, I mean,
yeah.
Is it even that anymore?
I'll spare everyone the brain headache.
Please.
These chords don't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, okay.
Right? So what can we say about this that does make a lot of sense? We can say that the theme of this piece mainly occurs within the outer voices, right? So the soprano, we have this sort of neighbor note thing going on. We have the little octave at the beginning, but...
Yeah.
And then this is B, we go to C, B. And we do that 3 times. So we got this neighbor note thing going on. And then we drop down to B flat for a second. And then A.
Yeah.
And then we continue with this sort of neighbor note because we were neighbor noting up to B now. B, A. So yeah, we got this neighbor note motion thing.
Kind
of a longing.
In the outer voice,
yeah. Kind of wants to go somewhere and can't. It's almost like stuck. Yeah. Meanwhile, in the bass line, check out this bass voice. What is it doing?
Is this the one you're talking about? Okay, okay.
Yeah. That is the third, because we started on that 1/6, right? And then down to F sharp. And then F natural.
Straight chromatic walk down.
And then down to E natural.
Continuing a straight walk down, chromatically speaking.
And then it kind of hangs out on E natural for a minute. And before down to D sharp. And then it hangs out on D sharp for a little while because D sharp is what? The third of our 5 chord. Does it ever get below D? Ever go to D natural? Yeah, it does go down to D natural. And then to C. Yeah. And then B. And now that once we've hit B, we start to go back up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but for the first half of this section, the G is descending down to a D, right? What does it mean when Francoli calls this a chromatic descending tetrachord? Could you tell me that? And why does Francoli call it a lament bass? Is that a specific device?
Lament bass because it's descending chromatically.
Okay.
Descending tetrachord because over this descending bass line, we have notes that have been harmonized with the bass line.
Okay.
Yeah. You will notice also that the alto line is descending chromatically. Yeah. And in so doing, we have, because a structure that does not make sense because of chord progressions, tonal function, but a song that makes sense because of chromatic linear descent. right? So and it's going to make it all the way down to B. Which and that's going to be finally our 5 chord at the end of this phrase.
Yeah, measure 12 pretty much.
Yeah, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah. So we've descended. And hit on the 5 chord before before and starting over. Right?
Yeah.
And doing it again, essentially, with a little tie-on cadence at the very end.
Right.
Yeah.
So another thing is that the key E minor, right, is more implied than it is established.
Yeah.
I think that's safe to say because, well, I don't know. We have basically a 1 big 1 going to 5 is what some theorists would say, right?
Yeah. So the problem a lot of theorists have is that there is not a single E minor chord in root position until the very end, the very last one.
Right.
We get 1 E minor chord in first inversion and another E minor chord in first inversion, and then the rest of this there's almost nothing.
There's a lot of 5/7 chords that don't resolve to what they were supposed to.
And there's a lot of things that what am I even looking at?
Yeah.
Right.
So you just heard me try to analyze.
Yeah.
With limited success.
Yeah, exactly. Does that make E minor implied? I think this is solidly an E minor because we do descend, from G down to B, right? And that B it functions as a dominant pretty clearly, right? And we managed to make our way back to E minor in that way.
Well, it's in the key signature. It starts on E minor, and then basically it ends on E minor, and there's a 5/7 chord right before that. So yeah, that would fit a lot of my initial.
This whole passage is a journey from E minor from 1 to 5/7 B, connected by a bunch of non-functioning chords that effectively are there to harmonize 2 chromatically descending voices. One is the bass and the other is the alto, right? So this whole thing journeys from G over E, this 6th, chromatically descending, and they're off-stepped, right? One descends on the downbeat, the other one descends on beat 3, and they step down, step down, step down, step down until they get to B over A. And make a 5/7 chord.
So just looking back, I think I might have said that this occurs within the 2 outer voices.
Yeah.
Or somebody said that.
So somebody said that.
But actually the descending is happening in the alto and the bass.
Right. The soprano is the B.
That's the longing.
Yeah, that's the longing stuck on B.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, compared to the tonal progressions we have normally taken such comfort in, or the ones I've taken such comfort in.
Oh yeah. So this is what's so confounding is you go try to analyze this from a sense of tonal progression like you did, and half this stuff doesn't make any sense. So you think, well, how can this music make sense? Well, but it does. We hear that it makes sense, right? It's a beautiful piece of music.
In fact, I'm going to scan a copy of what I try to do on this paper so y'all can put it up on the website.
Yeah, it makes sense because. This structure is held together by 2 chromatically descending lines that descend from a 1 chord in E minor to a 5/7 chord in E minor. And that spells out E minor. I don't consider that implied. I think that pretty solidly spells out. We feel like we're in E minor.
Can I at least say that it is a less solid E minor because it starts on a inverted chord?
I don't think so.
Well,
I don't think I'm going to give you that. I think it's as solidly E minor as everything. It's just highly chromatic.
I can't speak for Frank Coley, but I can say you can take it up with him.
I will take it up with him. I will take it up with that word implied more than it is established. I see what he's doing. He's trying to lead you to realize, trying to lead you down this road of struggling with trying to do a traditional analysis and coming up short.
Yeah, well.
But to my brain who tends to prioritize counterpoint over vertical chords anyway, this establishes E minor just fine.
Okay.
So there you go.
So
maybe I'm being a little bit belligerent, but
I don't know.
I'm a music theorist. Get used to it.
There's a time. Y'all gonna see that.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen sometimes. This is what y'all do.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So this whole passage is a journey from minor 1 to 5/7, right? Connected by a bunch of non-functioning chords, as we said.
Yes.
The ambiguity created by all these non-functioning chords can be noted as a tonal parenthesis. If you're to try and actually analyze this, what would you mark? How would you mark this on the paper?
So some people do a complete comp out and just write parentheses starting at the first chord, what you marked as 2, starting with the first chord of measure 2, all the way to, I think that's legitimately a 4 chord towards the end. And they just call it parentheses.
I see.
They basically just don't. They just don't analyze it.
Right.
Yeah.
What I call a 2 add 4 chord, or
It's what you call a 2 add 4 chord, yeah.
So, the way you would notate this would be like 1/6 dash open parentheses, close parentheses, dash 5/7.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the cop out we're talking
Kinda
about
like
here.
Burr, yeah.
It's like using, it's like the yeah.
You can sort of squint at it hard enough and make actual chords if you want. But I don't know that I'm not in favor of the cop-out in this one, because I don't know that you'd be saying anything interesting about the piece.
I don't know, man. I was a squinting Tarantino, and I wasn't coming up with a whole lot myself. Lord help me, I tried, though. Lord help me.
It's not easy. It's not easy.
Okay, so if we are to use this form of analyzing, what is occurring within these parentheses can be referred to as linear chromaticism.
Linear chromaticism.
And
that's about as best as you can do. Yeah.
And in this case, it's a prolongation of the tonic chord in
Indeed.
a linear fashion, right?
Yeah.
Now, we did talk about linear chromaticism in Altered Chords Part 3, Episode 112.
Indeed.
But Matt, you want to just tell us what about this piece, where you see this in this piece?
Where I see linear chromaticism?
Or is it just everything we're talking about?
That is what we've been talking about this whole
whole
time,
thing.
basically. The descending chromatic bass, coupled with the descending chromatic alto voice. This is not held together by functioning chords. It's held together by voices that are moving down chromatically. So that is linear chromaticism.
Okay, so it's just a feature of what is occurring within this non-sequential linear process.
Yes.
Some of this, I think, is just too much information for saying all the same thing, right?
Yeah.
That's my squabble with the theorists.
Yeah. Well, they're trying to be thorough.
Well, I do appreciate that. And speaking of thorough, I got another thing for you to translate.
Okay.
This is Francoli.
This
right?
is Francoli's words. Should you read it or should I?
You read it. Read it how you think Francoli would read it.
Okay. We will think of the motivic neighbor figure in the melody as a melodic neighbor note.
Read it like you think Francoli would read it. Like I think Francoli would read it.
Would you read it like you would think Francoli? I don't know how you think Francoli would read it.
We would think.
There you go. Okay.
I'm sorry.
I already talk like that, so there's no.
You can't read it the way Francoli would read it because you talk like the way he would do it. Well, then I guess just read it the way you would read it.
Let's read it the way I would read it. Okay. We will think of the motivic neighbor figure in the melody as a melodic neighbor note, except when it is clearly a part of the voice leading for a vertical sonority, as in measure 3.
I was confused about that.
So he's just talking about the motivic neighbor figure. He's just talking about the neighbor note C,
Okay.
and how very often it's a dissonance. But he's basically just saying, well, we'll treat that dissonance as a neighbor note, effectively.
The second note on the treble staff of measure 3.
Yeah.
That's C.
Well, in every place but measure 3, whereas in measure 3 it clearly functions as a chord tone. So it's like, well, you can't call it a neighbor note when it's sonorous with the other notes, because now it's a chord tone.
I see.
Okay,
and
fine.
it is, in fact, we got a D, an F, an A, and a C, so that is, in fact,
It's a D7.
a D7 chord.
Yeah.
Or D minor 7
We have a
chord.
DF. Yeah.
D minor 7.
So in that case, you can't. It's a chord tone. Every other time we'll call it neighbor note.
Okay, well. That
Okay,
wasn't so
fine.
bad. That wasn't so bad.
Yeah. See.
Makes sense. Okay, now another thing. Chromatic voice leading is used in this passage, right?
No kidding.
One or two voices move stepwise at a time, which we said that was the bass and the alto, while the remaining voices sustain common tones. And that's just something we experience as we listen. The soprano sustains
A common tone. The tenor also sustains common tones as the other ones move, right? And the tenor does also move. But it will sustain. So, for example, just in that first passage, you'll see the tenor playing the fifth of the E minor chord, the B of the E minor chord, and then it'll move down to the A of the next chord and hang out on that A as E moves to E flat.
Mm-hmm.
So that's across. That's from measure 1 to measure 2.
I see.
Yeah, and then hang out on that A again as E flat in the alto moves to D. Right. So it's sustaining notes.
Okay.
Right? The tenor is there to harmonize with these other notes.
Yeah.
Basically, right?
It holds on to a glimpse of the past as the gloomy future moves in on you.
You could say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or it could say it just retains consonant notes.
That's so clinical. But this is a laboratory atmosphere, is it not?
A little bit. We are really sort of analytically dissecting what is, in fact, just a beautiful piece of music.
It's like the chimpanzees have busted out of the cages.
Yeah, and if you want to move back to think about it as a beautiful piece of music, it's a beautiful piece of music because it so eloquently creates this sadness of it's just like this sort of deflating, right?
Yeah, deflating.
Where this melodic line is sort of stuck. The notes under it is sort of moving chromatically down and down, is sort of deflating, creating a bigger and bigger gulf between that melody and that that bass line, and it in so doing creates this beautiful kind of sadness.
God, that reminds me of a really depressing but very poignant drug addiction commercial cartoon I saw recently. We won't get into that. But yeah, it has that effect. Yeah, because like you said, everything's kind of slowly dragging down, but the upper voice is trying to leap back up, but then gets dragged down, trying to leap back up, and then drag further down.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, so many emotions that with just a few notes.
Yeah, well, I have a real fondness in my heart for the confluence of theory and aesthetics. Right? They're not. You don't have to choose one or the other. They both work in concert.
Yeah. Okay, here's my next thing to ask you about.
Okay.
This piece has what I've referred to as implied tonal regions. Though little logical analysis can result from our standard Roman numeral approach.
As we saw,
we can hear a few moments of tonal reference,
Yeah, sure.
So one example Francoli mentions is in measure 4, the first chord can be heard as a 5/7 of 6, right? I'm sorry, 5/7 of 4.
If you really, really want to.
Except it doesn't go to 4, so in my opinion, that doesn't make it a 5/7 of 4.
Yeah, you've got a real point there, buddy. I agree with you.
All right, Francoli.
I mean, this is kind of the point I was making. Are you saying, yes, you can pick you can cherry pick that one thing out and say, okay, this isn't some weird Neapolitan flat 5/7 or something. This makes a clear 5/7 of 4 chord. But, are you saying anything about the piece by slapping that label on it? When it's just one part of this descending chromatic stream?
I don't think it does you any good.
I agree. I don't think it does you particularly any good. Could you cherry pick that out? Yes. And he mentions another one. The first chord, and to measure 7, there's a 5 of 3. But even Francoli admits neither of these resolve as expected. And so are you really understanding the music better by pointing this out?
Why apply a function to something or any symbol that represents a function to something that does not perform that function?
Indeed. And, secondary dominance can resolve deceptively, right? That is something that does happen, but that doesn't happen here either, right?
So
I don't think you're helping yourself any by cherry picking out, well, this one actually makes something I understand. Well, okay, great. But, does it really... does it really deserve that label being slapped on it?
Why dare we call this a tonal region, then? Tonal being the key word I'm asking about.
Why? Well, that's a good question. What makes this piece tonal?
Or should we even dare call them that?
Should we even dare call them that?
Because now it almost sounds like Francoli's thinking more like Chopin.
Almost. Like he's struggling to, because he's got this 5/7 of 3 question mark. So he's talking about these tonal regions where it's like a tonal region being 3, and maybe some of these chords kind of are revolving around 3. Like there's a 5/7 of 3, but then there's no 3, but then is there a?
Oh, I see.
Or could this be called a kind of 3? Blah blah blah. Right. And so he's trying to group these into these tonal regions. This may be my personal opinion here, but I don't think he's doing a particularly convincing job. Yeah.
We're just trying to analyze sometimes what can very not well be analyzed.
Yeah. So my question for you then is, how is this piece even tonal?
Well, I guess zooming out, you could say it is a 1 big 1 5 7 1 chord.
There you go.
Or progression.
There you go. So if you think about this structurally, it does what every tonal piece does. It digresses from 1 to 5 and then returns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then structurally speaking, there's a linear sequential pattern of 7/6 suspensions, huh?
Yeah.
And speaking of structure, there is definitely an underlying structure here, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's 1 1 5 1 progression. There's a linear sequential pattern of 7/6 suspensions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the kind of the thing that's kind of mind blowing to me is that with the complete dearth of circle of fifth, 2 5 6 clear phrases or something, or something like that, this piece is still tonal because of that descent from 1 to 5. And we still hear it as tonal because of that descent to 1 to 5. Anybody who listens to this piece feels like it's a tonal piece. This doesn't feel like Schoenberg or something, right?
Yeah.
And so what the implications of that is that underlying structure that is more critical to a piece being tonal than circle of fifths or diatonicism. So there's a level. So now we're starting to think of tonal music on levels, where on one level, on a surface level, things can be very highly chromatic. But then at some deeper level, there is still an underpinning of tonality. Yeah. And that underpinning is more what makes it tonal than the surface.
Very interesting. It's again, it's a matter of zooming way out.
Yes, indeed.
All right. Let's recap this in-depth episode, shall we?
Let's do.
So we started off talking about coloristic chord successions.
So coloristic chord considerations, things like chromatic mediants, double chromatic mediants, things that are using chromaticism to make more interesting chords.
Yeah. And often mediants are a feature of this process.
Indeed.
Okay. And then we had talked about some chromatic sequences.
Yeah, things like sequences that we all knew from diatonicism, like the circle of fifths, reinterpreted chromatically. So like creating secondary dominance. So we do 5 of 6 to 5 of 2 to 5 of 5, 5, right? Also patterns like an ascending 5/6 to 6/5, where we're alternating chord qualities and chord inversions. So from a triad to a seventh chord and first inversion, for example, or vice versa, starting with the first inversion chord and then moving to the 7 chord.
Yes.
Yeah. The descending 5/6, same thing, except what we're doing here with the ascending, we are creating a chromatically ascending bass line, and with the descending, we are creating a chromatically descending bass line. Right? And with the descending, we're moving from triads in root position to triads in first inversion.
Yes.
Which is a sequence that worked diatonically, only now we're applying it to a chromatically descending bass line.
Which also works too. We can make that work too.
Yeah. And then the 7/5 to 6/3 sequence is a way of creating chromatically upper voice chromatic descension by way of suspension. Alternating between a 7 chord and then a triad in first inversion.
And by doing so, kind of one voice disappears for a second, comes back in.
Yeah.
The texture expands and contracts.
Yeah.
I'd like to mess around with that. That'd be kind of cool. I probably have and just didn't even know it.
Yeah.
And then finally, if you could wrap up the 20, 30 minutes we spent on
the Chopin?
Yeah.
I think I can do that, Jeremy.
Oh boy, here we go.
Some pieces of music just have voices that move up or down chromatically. And that messes your chords all up. Your chords won't make sense. Because what's holding the piece together is a chromatic descent or ascent in one or more voices. And as an example, look at Chopin's Prelude in E minor.
Yeah. And then the other voices just do the best they can to help it all
just harmonize with those.
Make it pretty and make sense.
Yeah.
And still be good, listenable music.
Exactly.
In the case of this piece.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well.
So there you go. If you were hankering for a theory episode, that ought to do it.
We should probably do 2 non-theory episodes after this, just for me. But I hope we presented this in a way that made sense to you guys.
Indeed.
And girls.
And this is all kind of stuff we've covered before, but it's interesting to to put it all together in one go and talk about sort of these chromatic processes and things that happen.
And what I think will be the wrap-up episode of Altered Chords.
Let's hope so.
Let's hope so. From my theory brain. So thanks again for listening.
We will see you next time.
Thanks for all of our supporters, and thanks again to Angela.
Thank you, Angela.
And again, check out popmatics.com.
Indeed. Indeed.
Get your piano on, or your oral skills, or whatever.
Or whatever else.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. There's more intense theory where that came from. For ways to support us, click on the donate page of our website, musicstudent101.com. Check out our merchandise at redbubble.com/musicstudent101. You can help us thank Angela for this lovely music by checking out popmatics.com. And for questions or comments, you can write to us at info@musicstudent101.com.